The iFi iDSD portable lineup. This is a set of really interesting products which I've been wanting to talk about for quite some time. These fill a really interesting gap in the market. If you want a quick spoiler as to whether or not I think you should buy these, yes, if these suit your use case, these are fantastic products. Which of these is my favorite? It's this one, the iDSD Signature. And this is going to be, as well as a review, also a bit of a comparison between the Black Label, Signature, and Diablo, explaining which ones I think you should get in what circumstances. So let's firstly talk about why these devices as a whole, as a family, are interesting and unique. If you're on the go, you're using IEMs on your way to work, at work, at a friend's house, your girlfriend's place, whatever, you don't need much power. You just need something which sounds good, and you can use an Apple dongle, your phone, something cheap like this E1DA. You can get a Chord Mojo, a DAP. If you're at home, you can use a compact DAC and amp combo. You can use any kind of DAC preamp amplifier you like. You're not restricted. And even if you're at home and you're trying to drive really hard to drive planars like this, again, no issues. You can use a massive tube amp or a speaker amp or something more compact again. Doesn't matter. You're not restricted in any way. But what if you want to run arias and you need to be able to take them from place to place? You need a source which you can pick up, put in your pocket, and take wherever you want to go. That is where these come in. These are portable powerhouses, which also have a range of wonderful features and sound really good. So before we talk about sound, let's talk about the actual build of the devices themselves. The Signature and the Black Label are very, very similar. You can see that it's this lovely powder-coated metal. They feel very, very substantial, sturdy, and robust in your hands. They do not feel like they're going to break at all. You could probably lob these across the room and they'd be absolutely fine. Really, really nice build. Few changes here and there, like ports. That switch has been moved. Stuff at the back's changed a bit, but overall, very, very similar. Where things start to differ is with the Diablo. You can see that the Diablo is a lot more rounded. Switches are now absent from the sides and everything. The Diablo is my favorite in terms of build. It feels the best in your hand because of these rounded edges. It looks the best, I think. This finish is gorgeous. I love the color of it. All of these are really, really lovely in terms of construction, but the Diablo is my favorite. All of them as well. I know it's small, but the pot on all of them is a proper spoon in honey type resistance feel. No loosey-goosey pot there. And that is an analog pot, not a digital pot. There are some like the Death on Ray Honey H1, which has a nice feeling pot, but it's actually digital. It's not an analog pot. So what about accessories that you get with these? Well, the Black Label, I'm not going to be talking about too much in this review. I can't talk about the accessories because I didn't unbox this from new. But also, in terms of sound, I'm not going to be talking about it too much because I don't think that this is as good as the other two. These are a big step up from the Black Label. I would only get the Black Label if you are looking for something cheap used. You can find these pretty low cost on the used market, but if you are buying something new, get one of these two. With the Signature, when you unbox it, you get the device itself and a few adapters. That's kind of it. You don't really get much, just the device. But you don't need much either. Everything you need, including a USB-A adapter, is included. The Diablo has a really nice unboxing experience. So you get the device itself. You get the silicon mat, which has a double use I'll talk about in a sec. You get a lovely carrying case, this one here, which the device just slots in like that. Room for some accessories under here. It has these kind of splash-proof looking zips. It doesn't explicitly say splash-proof, so take that with a grain of salt, but it looks good. Grommets on either side so that you can actually have connectors going in and use this in the case. Lovely, lovely case to be included. So, as well as that, you also get an iFi iPower 5V power supply. Why is that nice? Well, the iPower 5V is a really, really good power supply. There are links to some testing in the description. It actually beats quite a lot of linear power supplies. It's a really, really good device. It normally costs about 50 quid to buy on its own, and you get one included. I wouldn't use that for charging this. That's what it's intended for, obviously, but charging this with a nice power supply isn't going to align the electrons better. So use a phone charger to charge this, and then use the 5V power supply that's included for a DAC or a streamer or something else which might actually benefit from a nice power supply. You also get a Pentacon to dual XLR adapter, which means that you can use this as a balanced DAC for feeding any kind of amp that you might have at home. That's really nice. And you get this. This is the iFi iPurifier. It's a special version which has the A connector instead of a B connector, which means you can connect this directly to the back of the device like that. This is intended to filter out noise from a noisy source like a gaming PC, for example. It didn't make a difference in my setup, but that's because I'm using the SMS200 Ultra, which is about as good a USB source as you can possibly get. I would have been surprised if this made a difference with that. It didn't, either objectively testing on the AP or subjectively to my ears, but if you're using it just on a PC, it is likely that this is going to help. And again, it's a free inclusion, so it's wonderful that that's there. It also does double as a USB-B to USB-A connector. So now you can use any normal USB cable like that AudioQuest Carbon, which I've been using for all of my testing. That silicon mat, let's quickly mention that one more time. So the problem with this though, and let's talk about this port. This is the one thing which I hate about these products. I really, really, really like these. I think these are fantastic. I think the build's great. I think the features are great. But this port, why? Why use a USB-A port when everything else uses USB-B? Everything. Everything uses USB-B. Some stuff, especially portables, use USB-C, and it has a USB-C port. But you can't use that for data. It's only charging. And so you have to use a USB-A cable, which nothing else uses, and you'll probably have to buy or try not to lose the one that's included. That I hate. The iPurifier also sticks out ever so slightly. Just a couple millimeters, but that means that when it's on the desk, it might wobble a little bit. It might bend if you press something on that. This mat, which if you just put like that, fixes it. So you just put this on the mat. Now that is perfectly stable, perfectly flush with the bottom of the device. I wish that wasn't a problem, which they could fix by just not having a USB-A port there. But yeah, in any case, you can fix it just by using that mat. So let's talk about the feature set of these devices. The Black Label has a few features which the others don't. This is the most feature-packed device by far. It has line outs which can be switched to a pre-out so that you can use volume control with the pot at the end here. It has invertible polarity, which I don't really know when you'd use that, but still nice to have. It has a USB port, which with up to 1.5 amps at 5 volts can charge your phone to keep that nice and topped up whilst you're using it. And it's the only one with an analog input so that you can actually use this as just an amp with an external DAC. What are some features which the Black Label shares with the Signature? Well, it's got selectable digital filters. It has an inbuilt IEMatch. Now, iFi actually sells this as an external accessory. And this, what it does, is it puts a resistor in line with the signal path to attenuate the signal so that you've got a wider range of volume control and to lower the noise floor. So that's a really, really nice feature to have because these are high-powered devices. And so using sensitive IEMs can be a bit tricky, but with that, it's absolutely wonderful. It also has X-Bass. Now, as you can see on the screen, what this does is put a rising curve up into the lower frequencies. That's a really nice feature. I leave that on quite a lot. It just adds that extra oomph to some headphones which might need it, especially some of the dynamics which roll off. And it also has 3D+. This is effectively a full range crossfeed. It's not my thing, but I totally get why some people like it. And again, nice to have it and not need it. This also has SPDIF input, USB input, and it's got fixed line outputs at the back here. This also adds a balanced output. It's not actually balanced. It's just a Pentacon but fed by single-ended. So that means that you can use a set of headphones or IEMs which have a Pentacon connector without using an adapter, but it's not actually balanced. Now, the Diablo, despite having way, way better accessories, builds, unboxing and all that kind of stuff, and lots more power, this has up to 5 watts continuous, whereas the Signature has 1.5 watts continuous, but 4 watts max. So this is the beefiest by far. No X-Bass, no 3D+, no IEMatch, no pre-outs, no charging your phone, doesn't cook your dinner for you. It's just a DAC and an amp. That's basically it. It loses a lot of the features, including things like digital filter selection, and most importantly, the IEMatch. This I'm kind of disappointed about because the IEMatch made these a easy choice, and this is one of the biggest reasons why I think that the Signature is the product I'd recommend the most. Now, to show you what I mean, I've got the Unique Melody Mest Mark IIs connected. Now, these aren't the most sensitive IEMs. These are actually somewhat hard to drive when it comes to IEMs. I have the Diablo set to Eco mode, pot's just all the way at minimum without turning it off. If I just play Sook I by Gorillaz, and I'm going to turn it up and tell you when it gets too loud. That's it. That's all I can get to. I've got about, I don't know, 10 degrees maybe of volume control there. And that's a problem, because that means that even on the lowest output level, the Diablo's really difficult to use with IEMs. You know, you nudge that pot too much and you're going to make yourself deaf. Whereas the Signature, On the signature, well, firstly, just inherently I can get a little bit higher because it's a lower output device, so little bit higher there. If I switch the IEMatch on though, which is a wonderful feature, one click gets me to there, and two gets me almost all the way to the max of the pot. So now I've got a full range of volume control here. If you are using IEMs, go for a signature. Just unfortunately, the Diablo does not work for IEMs. But the Diablo has considerably more power. The Diablo is 5 watts max, whereas the iDSD signature is 1.5 max continuous or 4 watts max for a short duration. So if you're running just hard to drive planars, then the Diablo is a better choice. But for IEM users, you need to stick to a signature because the IEMatch is an absolute godsend. You can get it separately and just use it with the Diablo, but having it internally is super convenient. So what else do you get with the Diablo? Well, with the Diablo, over the other two, firstly you get a true balanced line out, which they include an adapter for a Pentacon to dual XLR, so you can use it with any kind of amp that you like, just using this as a DAC, and you get a true balanced output, not the just adapter balanced there. This is a genuine balanced output with twice as much output power as the single-ended, so that's a really, really nice bonus. Additionally, this one is a full MQA decoder if that's your thing, but you do give up quite a bit in the process, and for that reason, the signature is still my favorite. What about objective performance? Is there a big difference there? Well, I measured both of these on the Audio Precision, and no is the short answer. Line out, they are almost exactly the same in terms of SINAD. There's a slight difference in how the distortion is presented. The signature has a higher second order harmonic, whereas the Diablo has lower second order but more third order, which is probably why the signature sounds a little bit warmer maybe. But the headphone out does change a little bit. There is a little bit of a difference with the headphone out, but it's not worlds apart. It's not a huge jump from the signature to the Diablo. And I have to be honest, I think the signature sounds better. I think that the signature is the best sounding out of the bunch. I think that the Black Label, whilst good, is a little bit too thick and warm for me. The Diablo, though, is a little bit too far the other way. It's a little bit too clinical. It's not full-on SU8V2 or anything like that. It is a lovely sounding product. I still really, really like it. But the signature is just a little bit smoother, a little bit more refined sounding, and it doesn't feel like it's trying to force detail into your ears. It just feels a little bit more effortless. Additionally, the ability to go to the bit perfect filter, which as you can see on screen, is sort of a semi-NOS emulation. Basically, what happens is the first 6 bits of each packet are converted discretely, and then the bottom is done via normal delta sigma. That sounds really nice. It sounds very similar to a lot of NOS DACs, and that's something which a lot of people, including myself, will really like, at least to have the option to do. There's not a huge jump in performance, but this one just sounds better to my ears. So this one sounds better. This one's got more features. This one can be used with IEMs. The only reason that I would say you should go to the Diablo is if you're trying to run an HE6 or a Susvara or something which really needs as much power as you can possibly get. So that kind of covers the feature set. The Black Label absolutely wins on features. It's not really even all that close. This has got the most stuff packed into it. But the signature keeps all the key ones. It keeps the IEMatch, it keeps the digital filter selections, it keeps the X-Bass and everything. All the key features are still here, whereas the Diablo is much more of a slimmed down device. It is a DAC and an amp, that is kind of it. You don't get any digital filter selections, you don't get an IEMatch, you don't get pre-outs. That's all it is. It is a DAC and amp. It's got a lot more power, and you get a little bit of a boost in objective performance, but is that worth it? Does this sound better than the signature? I'm going to say off the bat that this does not sound as good as the other two. I said that in the beginning, and I stand by that. This is a good sounding device, and if you can get this cheap, it's well worth the money, especially for if you're listening to a combination of hard-to-drive planars and IEMs, because you can drive any of that with this. But it's not as good. It is not as resolving. It's thicker and warmer and doesn't stage as well. It's not quite as fast. These two are a noticeable step up in sound quality from the Black Label. And even if you have a Black Label, it is worth the upgrade to sell that and buy this. But if you're on a budget, Black Label on the used market is a good choice. Between these two, though, the iDSD signature is a little bit warmer sounding. Now, I'm comparing these at the moment with the filter in standard, just to have this a little bit more similar to that, because Bit Perfect, which is a pseudo-NOS type thing, which I'll talk about at the end of the video. sounds different. So having them both oversampling with the standard filter, not the GTO filter, puts them on an even playing field. This is Wanna Be You by Her. It sounds wonderfully resolving, impactful and dynamic, even though that these are quite tricky to drive headphones, but 5 watts of power will do that. It sounds lovely. It stages well, it's clear, and the clarity is really, really good actually on the Diablo. That's the one thing that stands out, including above the Signature. But what I will say is that the Diablo is a little bit more clinical than the Signature. If we swap from the Diablo to the Signature, let's plug that in there. And I've got these both on turbo mode, by the way, because I find that with the Arias, even though you don't need the volume all the way up, I mean, I've only got it there on the Diablo, it sounds better in turbo mode. No matter how high, how low, no matter how wide, how far, I'll let you know. This is a little bit less impactful. It's not soft. It's still handling these really, really well. It's just that the Diablo is a little bit more effortless there. But this has a more natural presentation. This has a less analytical sound to it without actually sacrificing any detail. When you sit and listen to these for a while, side by side, it immediately comes across as if the Diablo is more detailed. But it's not. It's not actually that it's more resolving, it's just that it's more forward with it. And so when you swap back and forth and you go, actually, vocals sound more convincing on the Signature. Drums sound better on this, but guitars, violins, vocals, anything that doesn't require immediate snap sounds better on the Signature. This has a better timbre to it. This has better texture, better separation actually. And whilst these two are about the same in terms of soundstage width, this one stages and layers further in front, which is that I like that a lot. And if you are lacking that impact, this has the X bass, so I can just Oh, I love that feature. That's really, really nice. The X bass just adds that extra oomph. It puts it on top of the Diablo. Obviously, it's not really a fair comparison because it is changing the sound. It's not just playing things with a flat frequency response. But at the end of the day, it's about what you're hearing. I think these two are fantastic devices. You cannot go wrong with either of these. Both of these sound wonderful. Both of these are about on par with actual resolution. Both of these are on par in terms of actual objective performance, just slightly different in how they perform. But I prefer the Signature. I prefer the Signature both because of the flexibility, the ability to use IEMs and hard-to-drive headphones, and because I think that a lot of musical elements, especially vocals, sound better on the Signature. So to quickly summarize then, yes, these are some absolutely wonderful, feature-packed, powerhouse portable devices that I think are well worth your money. These are not off-the-shelf designs at all. Clearly a lot of thought, time, love and passion has been put into these. This is far from the standard insert DAC and op amps here type design. I don't actually really even know how they've managed to cram so many of these features into such a small device. It's really, really impressive, and the end result is absolutely wonderful. Highly recommend all 3 of these products. I think that you should get the Black Label if you are on a budget and you can find one used. And then between the Diablo and the Signature, honestly, a lot of it comes down to simple flavor preference. Both of these are excellent. I personally prefer the Signature, but I understand fully how someone could prefer the Diablo. The Signature does absolutely win on features though, but then the Diablo wins on accessories that are included with it. So honestly, you cannot make a bad choice here. Both of these are exceptional. Do join my Discord server if you'd like to talk to me and others about anything related to audio and hi-fi. And if you enjoy my review style and the objective stuff that I'm doing as well, then please consider supporting me on Patreon. Absolutely 100% of the money from Patreon at the moment is going towards purchasing one of these, an audio precision analyzer. This is just here on loan, but I am so close to being able to purchase one for the channel permanently. Thank you to everyone on Patreon who is supporting me, especially my Diamond and Legend tier supporters, King Jong-un, Kishore, Skedra, Chris, CK Yozizawa Zoo, Daniel Mellinger, Jan Frederick Rumpf, Jithan the Shiba, Lossless British Accent, Nino, Peter, Ross Kyle, Dizarasta, Raf, Gravitas, Naivodsu, Adam Kardosh, Beanbo Owito, Chandler Bassett, Daniel Hibiak, Gizmo1K, Grant Evans, Jeremy Zagorski, Commodus, Lana Bennett, Luxfer, Pokey, and Victor Delgado. Thank you guys so much, you are fantastic. By the way, if you support me on Patreon at one of the higher tiers, then you can actually get your image or logo plastered on the top of this analyzer once it's here permanently. I am sticker blasting the entire top of it, and you can send in any image that you like. The next few upcoming reviews are going to be the Mest Mark 1 and 2, Denafrips Ares 2, Woo Audio WAR22, and the Hollow Spring 3. Stay tuned to see all of those. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day.